right. We have some Switch. We got some Switch 2 news, and apparently it's still not good. Apparently, we got some pretty terrible Switch 2 news. So, are you guys ready to hear some Switch 2 news? All right. Get tariffed. Apparently, we got more terrible news, so we're gonna find out what's going on. So, Young Yeah has the information for us. Let's see. I like keeping updated for like gaming stuff, you know. Always.
Okay, let's talk about everything going on with Nintendo right now. This video will be divided into two sections. The first section will talk about all the hidden costs surrounding Switch 2 and potential explanations as to why. And then the second part will focus on how the tariffs have hit Nintendo, with them recently having delayed pre-orders for the console as economic.
Oh, they delayed the pre-orders? What? I didn't even know about that.
Uncertain.
Hey, Kage.
So let's start with pricing for Switch 2. It was announced during the Nintendo Direct that the console will come out on June 5th, 2025, but they oddly left out the price of, well, anything.
Course.
The games, the console itself,
True.
bundles, you name it. And that's something that I found kind of bizarre. And then it wasn't long before I discovered that it was for good reason. One of the reasons was because they're trying to increase the baseline price of AAA games from $70 to $80. We discovered that if you go to the Nintendo website and go to the Mario Kart World page, scrolling all the way down, and I mean all the way down, you'll find that the MSRP for the title has been set at $80, the most expensive base price for a AAA game to date.
That's crazy that they're charging this Mario game for 80 whole buckaroos or so, you know? I'm not spending that much money on a video game. Nope. Especially for the base price of a game? Nah.
And no doubt something that is going to pick up trend and other companies will follow suit. We also learned that Switch 2 on a separate website, Business Wire, will cost $450 for the base package. And then if you get the Mario Kart World bundle, that price will go up to an MSRP of $500, which is...
I knew that shit was gonna go up higher. I fucking knew it too with the bundle. Hell yeah, dude.
A pretty good bundle considering you're saving $30 on Mario Kart
I
World.
fucking knew it.
Yeah, the $80
I knew
MSRP
it.
for Mario Kart World created quite a bit of backlash, and for good reason too. I mean, we're talking about price increases that
one of the debut titles is a Kirby game from the 3DS era, and it magically now is $80+. Oh, you mean the Kirby Racer game?
are not in line with the way
You're gonna buy it? All right, man. I guess.
I can't take this shit no more.
I'll judge you silently. That's about it, you know?
wages have
Of your
kind
money
stayed
spending.
the same, especially in countries like America. Yes, I get it, inflation and all, but wages haven't kept up with inflation. And so just the current economic situation doesn't make this the most consumer-friendly move. And seeing Nintendo kickstart this and the trend that this will begin with all other companies likely increasing their prices to $80 means that gaming is about to get significantly more expensive. And the Switch 2 experience will be more expensive than the Switch 1 experience for a number of factors, namely in the form of price increases across their accessories like the Joy-Cons. Instead of costing $80 for Joy-Cons, the Joy-Con 2 controllers will cost $90.
It's because that $10 got increased because of the C button. That's the reason why, chat. That's the reason why they increased it for $10. It's because the C button. They had to charge you for the C button. That's why.
We've got the upgrade packs for old Switch games that are likely to be anywhere from $10 to $20 depending. So stuff that's simpler.
That Donkey Kong game looks good though. It looks good, but it's not worth it though. All this is just making me feel glad I game on PC. Yeah, I game on PC too. But Switch 2 I doubt will be as strong as the PS5 or the Xbox One. No, it's still not as strong as them. So, plus with the new updates like the new games, share, I'll be down to buy them to play with the boys. Okay, are you ready to spend more money? Are you ready to spend more than like $600? I sacrificed my wallet with Take. Damn. That's a dedication right there. I'll be honest with you. I'll judge you silently, but that's about it though.
Like graphics and performance.
You do you, man.
upgrades
it's your money
will
at the end of the
likely be
day, so
$10. And then for
I'm not
Switch
doing
2,
it.
enhanced
It's not
games
worth it.
also come with extra content like Mario Party Jamboree and Kirby Forgotten Land. Those are likely to cost $20 based on the analysis that people have done
Damn.
of Japanese prices between the Switch 1 price versus the Switch 2 price. There's no official confirmation from Nintendo yet, but this sounds about right if you look at the yen price for the Switch 2 versions of these games.
Jesus
and
fucking
just
Christ,
the general
dude.
trend of these kinds of
So
generational
expensive.
upgrades. I would bet that this is an accurate representation of what we can expect for upgrade packs. A lot of people aren't happy about that because many feel as though certain kinds of upgrades, like the Zelda ones, where it's just essentially a performance upgrade and a graphics upgrade, those should be free. And the stuff with extra content, that stuff you can charge a little bit more money for.
I feel like they're literally taking notes from EA and everything and be like, oh, for performance, you want better performance? Cough up $10 real quick. Go, Nintendo's going to charge you for the info demo too. I'm not gonna play anything on Nintendo. So Shanako said, dude, get a gamer PCs. So I did. Was it costly? Yes. Can I afford it? Yes, I wanna stream now. When more games are out, but low-key, for the Switch 2, I'll wait for them to make an OLED version. I doubt it. You're gonna be waiting for like probably 4 years or something like that, maybe. Maybe 5. Depending how long was the last OLED, you know? Shuei made a VOD of the Switch 2 as well. Japan is loving it because they don't have to deal with, you know, because it's in their homeland. That's the only reason why it's not that expensive. I saw the pricing for the Japanese version of the Nintendo Switch. It's actually less expensive, so.
But $10 to $20 for these upgrades just seems really steep. And yeah, I mean,
I guess like you can say if I go to Japan, yeah, maybe I'll try to pick one up over there, but that's about it though. But even then, it's like, eh.
IGN article that essentially gives you the price points for all the things announced for it so far, the console itself, the games, the accessories, you name it. And you can see right here the prices are pretty significant, and this stuff does add up. As for the reason,
I think I found out that Canadians, like, I feel sorry for like the Canadians and the and Australia too as well. Apparently Canadian dollars is like $120 or something like that for one Switch game or something, you know?
some of these price points, well, according to analysts that IGN spoke to, they believe
your
that
VTuber mom could be our
both
plug.
Nintendo trying to
This
anticipate
guy.
tariffs, and also they believe that they can just price things higher because people will buy this stuff. And that's alongside the fact that manufacturing costs have increased over time, and so they're trying to compensate for that. They believe that it's them trying to kind of future-proof things because it's easier to lower prices over time than it is to kind of set a baseline price and then increase that price later on. And they believe that it's also Nintendo testing the waters on just how far they can push game prices. And with something like Mario Kart, which they know is a huge IP that will do gangbuster numbers, that will sell en masse, they believe that they can get away with it. And the unfortunate thing is that
yeah, they are going to get away with
they're
it.
Right.
Yeah.
I hate that this is a thing, but Mario Kart is so big as a franchise that even at $80, this will sell extremely well because it's freaking
it's
Mario
probably
Kart,
going to sell
and
pretty
they made
well.
a huge splash with the Mario Kart World presentation, this being now like an open world racing game.
The reason why is because there's a lot of diehard Nintendo fans, you know? That's the reason why. You have your diehard PS players, you have your diehard Xbox players, and you have your diehard Nintendo players.
A lot of people are really excited about this game, and just the Mario Kart IP is something that Nintendo can price at that price point and still likely sell quite a few copies. And if this does succeed, then it means other companies will look at this and go, maybe we can get away with this too, and they'll start increasing their prices to $80 baseline for their AAA releases. And again, just gaming is going to get more expensive. And then beyond all of that, something else that's drawing a lot of attention
Ticker
is the
Dubstep,
fact
be
that
safe.
in Japan, there's a version of the Switch
we'll be
2,
playing it later.
a region-locked version that is like $100 cheaper than what the Switch 2 costs everywhere else. As IGN reports here, in Japan, it's releasing a Japanese language system for 49,980 yen, which translated to dollars, that's roughly $333.22, while its multi-language system runs at 69,980 yen, which is roughly $466.56. Basically, it has to do with the yen being really...
I don't care about the new Pokemon game. I think the new Pokemon game looks kind of whack, in my personal opinion. I heard it's not even a mainline title, apparently. It's like a side-off title, apparently, so...
weak, and Nintendo
so I'm not
having to
interested in
price
it, so
Switch 2 in a way that's appropriate specifically to the Japanese market, but they also don't want people outside of Japan to look at how much cheaper the Switch 2 is in Japan and essentially buy them en masse in Japan. And so they're region locking the cheaper model so that it's more likely that people in Japan will buy this model while the region-free version of the console will cost roughly the same as the console does everywhere else. So yeah, there's just a lot of discussions going on in regards to the Switch 2's pricing, but mainly the additional costs associated with Switch 2 that Nintendo kind of kept buried, and outside of the Nintendo Direct, it's stuff that they essentially hid in fine print, and it's a style of communication that's drawn a lot of backlash. Even former Nintendo PR managers have criticized Nintendo in this regard, saying stuff like, I don't want to blow things out of proportion, but this does feel like a true crisis moment for Nintendo. Scrolling further down, you'll find IGN reporting on these PR managers, former PR managers for Nintendo of America, going to their YouTube channel to talk about how the lack of a price and the Direct itself was a deliberate omission that caused confusion and misinformation as fans scrambled to find out pricing confirmation elsewhere.
Yeah, that was the one thing too as well during the live stream or so. I was like wondering at the very end, okay, what's the price of this thing? Tell me what the price of this thing. It never said any of the price for the Nintendo Switch. I'm like, what a bunch of rats or so, you know?
The former PR manager said that the Switch 2 and Mario Kart World pricing was
they're roaching
intentionally
out
from the Direct for a reason,
as Aspen
but
Gold
handled poorly
says, you
in terms of
know,
the information being in all these different places, and you're expecting the fans or the consumer to piece it all together. And then one of the former PR managers added, it just shows some disrespect to the consumer where, oh, you just saw the Direct, you're so excited, you're just going to throw your money at us blindly, you're not going to even ask the question of how much it costs.
no, I asked the question of how much this thing was.
It's a bit degrading, almost to the intelligence of the consumer. Yeah, disrespect is the right word, honestly. The lack of transparency in that Direct is incredibly scummy, or as one of the former PR managers put it,
at the very end of the press conference, I was like, what's the price? Tell me the price.
The story to get
what's the goddamn price?
Lost control of this. But the PR surrounding Nintendo Switch 2 because of pricing stuff is not the only thing they've lost control of. They've also lost control of essentially their pre-launch plans for the Nintendo Switch 2 after the Trump administration in the US announced what tariffs look like across the globe, and they're far worse than Nintendo expected. And so what's happened is that Nintendo's had to delay pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2, which were originally slated for April 9th, 2025, as detailed here on the Business Wire press release, where if you scroll all the way down, aside from listing price points...
Wait, do you guys think they're gonna charge more? Do you guys actually think they're gonna charge more for the Nintendo Switch 2? There's no way they're gonna raise the price even more, right?
And bundles and whatnot. It says right here that Nintendo Switch 2 will be available for pre-order in North America from participating retailers beginning on April 9th, 2025. Now, the page you're looking at here is from Wayback Machine. This page has since been completely delisted and taken off the web. If you go to the non-Wayback Machine version of this press release page, you'll find this, a 404 error saying, stop the presses. The page you're looking for has gone out of circulation. And that's because that press release is no longer relevant. It is no longer accurate information. It is no longer the current events, as the tariffs has significantly impacted plans for the Nintendo Switch 2 in terms of when pre-orders go live and likely prices as well. So here's GameStop's update on Nintendo Switch 2. It reads right here, pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start on April 9th, 2025 in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date. The launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged. GameStop will continue to work closely with Nintendo and provide updates as soon as more information becomes available.
They're going to charge more.
Further details.
There's no way they're not going to charge more.
Switch 2 will still launch on June 5th, 2025, but Nintendo has to go back to the drawing board when it comes to price points because the tariffs are pretty significant. Right here we have a BBC article that details the kinds of tariffs we're going to see from the US. And so there's a baseline 10% tariff that is being applied across the globe, but then there are these custom tariffs that are far worse. And among the countries that took the biggest hits are China, Vietnam, and Taiwan. China was hit with a 54% tariff, Vietnam a 46% tariff, and Taiwan a 32% tariff. And I highlight these specific countries
Trump
because that's
is
where
winning.
a lot of electronics manufacturing happens. Now, for those who don't know, back in 2019, Nintendo actually moved manufacturing and production of Nintendo Switches from China to Vietnam in order to avoid tariffs and stuff that came about because of relationship turmoils between the USA and China. And now Vietnam is being hit with this 46% tariff.
Damn.
And so this will have a direct impact on Nintendo Switch 2 production and in turn potentially Nintendo Switch 2 price point. And then beyond that, when it comes to Nvidia, they manufacture a lot of their products through Taiwan. Taiwan has been hit by a 32% tariff. A lot of manufacturing happens in China, 54%
Japan got
tariff.
24%.
So yeah, Nintendo decided to retract their earlier announcements and essentially kind of try to assess the situation before they make official what people will be paying when they pre-order the console.
I would not be surprised if they actually increased the price, to be honest. I would not be surprised.
Was why they had to delay the pre-order date in order to be able to kind of track the situation and make adjustments appropriately. This is unprecedented.
Hey, TJ.
Nintendo
Thank you for the
cannot
gift
have
or
chosen a
so.
worse time to announce and launch their console. And it's not just Nintendo who will be affected by this. That's one thing to note. I would imagine that we might soon start seeing other console manufacturers like PlayStation and Xbox start to announce price increases for their hardware as well, because they just have to essentially keep up with market trends. And the market trend right now is that, things will just cost more to import, and in turn they have to make up for that price difference by increasing the prices of the products that they sell, because they're now more expensive to make and to bring over. And I mean, who knows how that will also impact all of the accessories that they're selling separately from the Switch 2 base console itself. We've already seen listings for games indicating that physical versions might cost $10 more. So if Mario Kart 8 is $80 digital, then its physical version might be $90. And who knows how physical versions of games will be impacted, as those require manufacturing and shipping. So will cost for that increase?
And let me add on top of that too, off Moist Critical's video, I don't know if he's going to talk about it or so, but Moist Critical's video apparently the physical copy is just a code for you to download the game or so, for you to be able to play it on your Switch too. It's not even an actual real physical copy, apparently. That's what Moist Critical has said. I'm not too sure how like the validate on that information is, but if it's true, it's true. Well, physical copies are not a thing or so for Nintendo, so it's an access card pretty much. They won't shrink their margins because that's the last thing shareholders wants to see. That's true. I think they will, but if I were them, I will increase the hidden cost to make up for it. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll charge more on the Nintendo subscription, probably,
It's an unknown landscape right now. I'm sure we'll see a lot more kind of concrete announcements and price points set over the coming days and weeks. But yeah, this kind of put Nintendo in a complete disarray when it comes to its plans, its pre-launch kind of information that they're presenting to audience members. And that's probably why they refrained from announcing price points on the Nintendo Direct itself.
True.
And why they relegated that to press releases, because they themselves didn't know what was gonna happen. The tariff announcements happened essentially. Those certain things like Mario Kart World's MSRP, they kept that information under wraps, and they didn't disclose that during the Nintendo Direct because they knew the backlash that would create. And Mario Kart World being the first thing that they showed, them kind of pointing out that it's $80 from the get-go at the start of the Nintendo Direct would probably create a lot of negative PR from the outset, and so they intentionally kept that information buried on their website as to try to mitigate some of the negative PR from that. So that was not an uncertain thing. That was a very calculated move. Nintendo
No, they knew.
They
knew for a
worst day
fact.
possible to make all of these announcements on the day that President Trump went on to announce all of these tariffs. And so that left Nintendo in a situation where they had to do a lot of guesswork, and it would seem as though the tariffs impacted them in far worse ways than Nintendo thought. And so now they're having to reassess their entire situation. I've never seen a company having to retract information, details, and plans like this at such short notice. This is, without question, a bit of a crisis for Nintendo, and also just for, gaming as a whole. All of it is going to be impacted by the tariffs. When prices increase, customers spend less. When customers spend less, companies lose money. With imports across the board increasing in price because of these tariffs, what that means is that the higher prices across the board, not just in gaming, but just about everywhere, means that customers will want to kind of hold on to their money and only spend on necessities. And so with the economic recession we're headed into, people will spend less money on gaming, as that is more of a luxury than anything. That's a bad outlook for game companies across the board in terms of game sales, hardware sales, you name it. When companies don't get the financial results that they want, that's gonna affect and impact the company across the board. That might lead to layoffs, canceled projects, studio closures. And so it's just the domino effect of things that will put the entire games industry in a rather precarious position. And again, we're seeing Nintendo having to respond to this now because they're launching a brand new console, but we're likely going to see other companies, whether it's hardware and console makers, or
I might as well
just
should
game
pick up one
publishers,
as soon as
start to
possible,
respond in kind. And with the normalization of $80
Before
games
those
kind
things
of
raise the
coming into
price
play,
too as
that's
well.
likely going to be accelerated in the
Elon will
normalization
save us.
because of the economic situation now, where they're forced to increase prices because of tariffs that are kind of forcing that hand. So it's a whole situation, folks. Yeah, I'll be definitely keeping a close eye.
I don't have the money
on
or so
things
for
and
a Steam
reporting
Deck,
to you,
but I should
to make
probably
sure
get me
you're
one though.
as informed as possible. But right now,
Because then
this
I
is
can
kind of all
emulate
we
it and
know
stuff, you know.
concretely. There's just not much we know aside from the fact that Nintendo has gotten cold feet about the current pricing model, and they'll likely be making adjustments and will likely be announcing something soon in regards to
There's
when
more
they
to
can
the
start
surfaces,
pre-order
Sal.
and at
You
what
gotta look
price
into it a
point.
little bit more besides, you know.
I'll be curious to see just how
Besides the
much
surface
things
of it.
are affected on Nintendo's end. And then on top of all that, they have to deal with the backlash of all the hidden costs that they're adding
For
to
a
the
$7
Nintendo
for a
Switch
Steam
2
Deck.
platform.
No, I
with
think
the
I
MSRP
can
of
hold
games
out at
going
least a
up
little
by
bit.
$10 from $70 to $80, with their accessories
I
being
just
more
gotta save
expensive
money
now,
for
so
it.
on
That's
and so
about it.
forth.
But the problem is, it's not my
So
priority,
this is,
unfortunately. So
quite the
I
situation
don't have the
that
luxury,
Nintendo
you
will
know,
have
to
navigate.
spend.
This is
I don't
quite
live a
the
very
uphill
luxurious
battle
life,
that
you know.
Nintendo has kind of forced for themselves, and that extenuating circumstances have brought to them. And so I'll be curious to see how Nintendo ultimately navigates all of this. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything you need to know, and that's one man's take on all of this. Let me know in the comments
That's
below
crazy.
what your thoughts and opinions are.
So I would not be surprised if they raised the price. But yeah, I knew the bundle for the Mario Kart thing with Nintendo was gonna be $500. I was like, oh, that's just gonna cost $500. If I know about bundles, they always raise the price at least. So if it's like what? If it's like $449 or so, or $450 or so for the normal Nintendo without the game, I was like, oh, they're so raising it to like, you know, to $500 or so for the bundle. I just knew it. I fucking knew it. I know how these companies are, you know. You're still trying to get into the into that one class, right? What class? What class am I going into? What? I'm trying to be in the middle class. I'm in the poor class. That's where I'm at. Actually, we're more piss poor class now. That shading class, yeah, but the problem is the price, the price for the classes went up, you know, that earlier this year. That's why. So that's the only thing about it, which is kind of shitty in my personal opinion. Priority list, chair, desk, number 1986 Nintendo Switch. Yeah, that's probably on my last thing that I'd rather get is a Switch 2, you know. It went up in December and it went up this year. Only 2 times. That's it. Okay, challenge. She's 11,000 subs and climbing. What? What do you mean 11,000 subs? Anyways, yeah, I'm not surprised that the Nintendo's well, actually, to be honest, I'm more surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they raised the price for this thing at least, you know. So what you're saying is there's gonna be a subathon later. I think I'd rather do a reverse subathon, you know? How about like if we have like the max hours or so for a month or so for a subathon, and then whoever subs or so reduces the time. They delayed the Switch 2, also high. No, it's still planning to be released, but they're reworking on the pricing again, so that's the only thing. And tariffs will have an influence on the whole global market. What I meant is they remove the Switch 2 prices on all websites, not just the US ones. Yeah, because they're gonna raise the prices. That's why. Class price went up. The tariff again. Doesn't really matter to me because I wasn't buying it anyways. I'm not gonna buy it either. Nobody in my community should be buying one of these. If you're gonna do it, that's fine. That's your money at the end of the day. But I recommend you guys not to do it. In my personal opinion, don't support these practices. At least, you know, just wait for it to go on sale or something like that. You know, then pick it up later. You know. I'll probably totally legally play it on PC. To be honest, I was thinking of selling my PS5 and OLED since I don't use them. Yeah. Buy the Steam Deck while it's still cheap. Yeah, just buy the Steam Deck. In my personal opinion, I think you'll benefit a lot more from the Steam Deck personally, and you can emulate stuff on it and mod it and whatnot. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff, and yeah. It's a lot of terrible news. And it's probably gonna get a lot worse too as well, chat. It's probably gonna get a lot worse. I think 400 would have been fine, personally. And then like 450 for the bundle. I think that's where my limit was at. I have to agree with Maximilian or so. 400, 399 or so would have been the better one. Because I think if I remember correctly, the OLED was 299. So that's the only reason why. So, but anyways, that's it. You can buy any gaming PC handheld and you get more value, to be honest. That's true. That's true. But yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. There's definitely still more information coming out, of course, in the next coming day. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get more information on the Nintendo and the tariff and Switch 2 and all this other shenanigans. But yeah, anyways, that's it. That's the end of the video. And almost forgot. I should have put it at the beginning of the video. You know what? I'll just say it at the beginning of the video. Don't worry, I'll give you guys information for the next video anyways. That's the end of the video, and peace.